Now let's start. The first thing we have to do is to just acknowledge that stories today are better than almost everything else. And this is not just for marketers or content creators, it's for everyone. Stories has really come and taken over the way we try to communicate with each other. And this is not very strange, but I'm just going to show you a couple of nice headlines that show what I'm talking about. Of course, if you're a content marketing person, you need to work with stories. That's quite obvious. But also just an ordinary marketer has to connect to story to make people listen to what they have to say, because no one wants to hear you just shout out in the open these days. Sorry, I'm gonna... Also, if you work with communication internally, it's a much better tool to just do stuff that are connected to stories instead of also just shouting out or bringing facts to the table, because no one will care. And for HR, the same thing. For sales, it's the same thing. For product people, if you can connect your product to a story, it's going to be much more powerful. And PR, of course, which journalist would ever pick up a non-story? And we talk more and more about strategic storytelling, where we actually try to make a strategy around what we want to say to people. And if you work in social media, storytelling is of essence to make anything happen. Well, why is storytelling so important? I always say that you can steal stuff from people, so I found this on the internet that I really liked. This is storytelling versus corporate speak, which is something we often talk about. And storytelling is captivating. It's nothing new about that. We know that stories capture our attention. We've been telling stories to each other forever. And they're much less boring than the ordinary corporate speak. It's much less boring than information. And it's also conversational. If I tell a story, I want something back. I want you to listen. I want you to engage. And I don't just pick up a lot of jargon and use all these buzzwords and things that you won't understand, because I'm telling you a story. I want you to understand it. I don't want to just brag around with different buzzwords that I have in my apartment. And it's also built on what people around me are thinking. I'm not telling you a story because I want to do it. I'm telling you a story because I want you to listen. So it's from the outside in instead of from the inside out. And also you use narrative instead of just blurting out words that no one will listen to. So storytelling is really important. It's something that everyone can connect to. And it's so important, especially when you work in social media, to remember that everything can be a story. I often hear people say, well, I'm going to make a 30-second video. That's not a story. It's just an ad. Or I'm just going to do a short Facebook post. That's not a story. And then I often show them this. This is the shortest story that we know of. It's 6 words: for sale, baby shoes, never worn. And I think it was Ernest Hemingway, sorry if I'm wrong there, who wrote this. And it's a whole story inside of 6 words. And if you can tell a story with 6 words, you can do it in 30 seconds in an ad or in a Facebook post with 40 words, or even on Twitter. So everything can be a story. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Storykit for you who don't know. So I'm the marketing director at Storykit. And we are, what I would say, the #1 video tool for storytellers. Today, there are loads of video tools out there that make video creation really easy. And if you just want to do something easy, animated, just make something pop, use a free tool or an app or just something cheap. But if you want to tell stories efficiently, with structure, brand safe, and really do it in a productive way, then I would say that Storykit is the first choice. We came to life in spring 2018. Today we have over 400 companies, and we are at every department. As I said, every department needs to tell stories. So we can be at marketing, at sales, at HR, everything. And we have users all over the world, especially since the tool is very good for localization. And please join our Facebook group. If you haven't followed us on LinkedIn, follow our Facebook group. It's Video for Social Media. We are over 2,000 members right now, and we try to inspire, come with the great news. We, of course, talk about the tool, but we always try to connect it to the community. So please join, it's fun. And who am I? Well, I'm the journalist who became a marketer because I love storytelling so much and I love the strategic part of it. So please connect with me. You've got my email there, you've got my Twitter account, but I'm that kind of person that listens more than or read more than I write on Twitter. So you're not going to have an action there. But on LinkedIn, I try to be quite active. So please follow me on LinkedIn. It's fun. But never mind. Let's start with how to find our stories, because I know that every company has amazing stories to tell. I've met so many companies saying, we don't have any stories to tell. And I'm like, what? Because it's not true. Even the most boring companies, have stories to tell. And how to find them? Well, first of all, you should look at the things you're already doing, because everyone is creating a lot of stories, but they don't think of them as stories. It's reports and there are press releases and then it's information about the product, or maybe you've interviewed the CEO for something. It can be internal information or FAQs and so on. We all produce a lot of stuff, but we don't consider them stories. Maybe because we aren't journalists, or maybe because we're not saying that we are storytellers, but what we are doing when we are releasing a new product or when we have written a report is telling a story. So just be confident and know that this is a story that I should tell, and I will make people listen because it's interesting. If it wasn't, you wouldn't be telling it. Another trick is to try to find the stories from within the organization. Maybe you can talk with the new hires. What are they thinking? What are they longing for? Why did they join? What's their first impression? Or talk with the colleagues who've been around for a while, because they know so much and they have so many stories to tell about the product, about the company, about life in general. Of course, you should tell about your successes. If you're winning prizes or if you've got a great new customer, that's a great story to tell. But remember that people will always be even more interested in the challenges you meet and the solution you have to overcome them, because that's the best way to learn, from someone who's had a challenge and is brave enough to tell you about it. And I don't know why this is such a big thing for many people and many companies, to actually acknowledge that there was a challenge, because that's the point of doing something. Behind the scenes material, that's a very common thing. It can work great, but remember to always ask yourselves, is anyone outside your organization really interested in this? Because not everyone is, not always, but you need to find those stories and ask yourself this question. And if the answer is just remotely yes, try them. But the problem is that sometimes you end up like this. I love this account, by the way. It's the best meme account if you work in social media ever. Work in social, they said. And they say it would be good to showcase some behind the scenes content on our channels. And this is the behind the scenes. And I know this because that's pretty much me during a Zoom meeting when I don't have my camera on, because bed. The third thing you can do is to find your why. I'm guessing that most of you have seen the clip with Simon Sinek, where he talks about how finding your why will help you bring so much alive. Because companies are so good at talking about what and how, because we know that story. We're used to that. That's what we do. But even if we did like a month of trying to find our vision and mission, we're quite bad at trying to tell that story to our audience. We think that they're not interested, but of course they are. Why should they use us? Why should they like us? Why? It's such a good question to ask yourself. What feeling do you want to convey to your audience? Another trick is to listen to the competition. So first of all, do they have ideas to steal? Then do that. I mean, the competition are thinking about the same things as you are. So just steal those ideas, but do them better. They might even have ideas that you want to avoid. So that could be a very creative exercise to just look at what they're doing and think about what shouldn't we be doing? And how does this make us different? It's a good way to see trends you're missing. Oh, they released a new report. We need to do that. And also to find stuff that you can challenge. What are the competition saying that we can say, no, we don't agree? And I'm going to show you later on why this is such a great tool. But the most important thing when you're trying to find your stories is to listen to your audience. What are they saying? What are they worrying about? But I'm going to get back to that really a lot. So I'm going to skip that for now, because we're going to start talking about gut feeling versus data. And everyone who's been working with stories for a while know that gut feeling is something we like. As an old journalist, I know that gut feeling is like the most driving thing that we have in the editorial room, because we just know what's the thing, what's it, what are we looking for? We don't learn that, we just know. And that's quite dangerous, because gut feeling can take us quite far, but it can also stop us and make us not as good as we could be. And this is what we realized when we made a huge content audit together with the Times and the Sunday Times in the UK, because they wanted to increase digital subscribers. And they didn't really know how, because they wanted to do this with content, not with amazing ads and expensive campaigns. They wanted to do this by creating the right content. And that is such a good idea, because it's always there, something starts. I mean, that's what they're selling, content. So they wanted to know, what content should we create to convert our readers to subscribers? And they made a huge content audit with our data sets that I'm going to talk a wee bit about, but not that much. They hired 8 freelancers who worked for 3 months, who tagged 1,000 articles per section, which is about 15,000 articles, with 16 pieces of metadata. So there was a lot of data going on here. And they plotted those against 10 different engagement metrics in social: page views, conversions, and of course, subscribers. And here you have the taxonomies that they used, the content data that Storykit provided that they used. So they could really dig into the content and look what was going on. So they explored the nature. What is this? The context. How does it fit into the world? The development. What is happening? Why are we talking about? The editorial intent. Why are we doing this? The article objective. What do we want the article to do? And of course, the tonality. Are we trying to be funny or serious or just explanatory? What article type, what production type, what headline type, what job type, what category, what geography? And as you can see here, most content creators know this. If I would ask you about an article that you have written, like, why are you writing this? What's the editorial intent with this? You often know, because you know, but you never sit down and actually try to plot them out. So that's what they did. And one of the reasons they did this is because Tanith Evans, who is the head of audience there, she said that there are broad brushstrokes, like features do well, that don't do anything for the newsroom. That are the old truths, the gut feeling I'm talking about, the broad brushstrokes. We know that features do well, but what do we do with that? What does that lead to? What decisions can we make from that? Nothing. So this was their attempt to get actual data and findings for people who are doing the job and the wider company. How can we all learn from the things that we have done? Very exciting. And the results? Well, they're paying digital-only subscribers rose with 19%. That's a huge rise just by tweaking the content. And it's really interesting that they offered around 15% fewer storage each day. So they did fewer, but they did the right stuff. And they can nowadays much more easily prioritize which type of articles they should focus on, because they don't work on like, oh, we had a senior editor who said that cats work 10 years ago. That's what happens in all content creation rooms. Like, oh, we knew this. Someone said that that works. I read an article that this works on Facebook. And then you just think it's true. And it might not be, not for you. And as they said, we've started to focus on the quality rather than the quantity. Nice. And I can't like dig into detail in the data because it's confidential, but this and a lot of other data that we have has given us two major takeaways regarding how we tell our stories. And you might, when you hear what I'm going to say now, think, oh, this was like the most basic thing I've ever heard. But think about it when you hear it, because first of all, these takeaways are really nice to hear as a content creator. And second of all, it's not what people believe. So let's go on. The first one, focus on the person. Focus on the audience. Focus on the subscriber. Focus on the person. And we know this. Of course, we should focus on our target audience. But what does this mean? Well, it's all about the life your audience lives. They want to read stuff that aligns with their lifestyle, their everyday life, their personalities, and their point of view. So you need to find that person. What is she thinking? What is she worrying about? What makes her happy or sad? How is she spending her time? You need to know all these things about her. And you know this because you're probably marketers or content marketers or something like that, and you've done your personas and stuff. But you don't want to find the personas, you want to find the person. You need to strengthen the identification that you have with these people. One good way is including a voice from the audience. Can you interview someone who from the audience, or someone that they identify with, an influencer, a successful marketer, I don't know, Simon Sinek. And of course, give examples from their everyday life. So what are their challenges? Can the audience tell the story? Use their words. And this is something that I've seen a lot on LinkedIn lately. Use the audience's words. And then you have to remember, you can't lose the power of the narrative because it's your narrative, but use their words. And using the words of the audience is amazing. This is something that I try to do all the time. And I think I have an advantage here because I am a journalist. And my go-to thing when I try to find out stuff is to ask someone. I always try to do stuff in interviews. The fact that I'm standing here alone, just blurting about stuff is kind of new for me. I always love to interview someone. I might be doing that in the future. Let's see. So here are some examples. We have these tiny testimonials everywhere, where customers have said nice stuff about Storykit. And of course, we do cases where we interview people saying how magical the tool is. But the thing I like the most is when this happens, which happened a couple of days ago. A customer writes a LinkedIn post and she gives us the best slogan I've ever seen. We hired no one to make this video. Oh, am I going to use that in the future? Use the customer's words. We hired no one to make this video. I almost cried. But you should also talk about the life your audience wants to live. They love content that shows them what they can become, the choices they can make, the dreams they can have, because everyone wants to improve. And it doesn't matter if you're looking for best practices for your job, or if you want to become a better parent, or if you just want to become a better football player. You're always looking to become a better person. And this is something you should remember. And everyone wants to dream. Even those who will never make that jump want to know that they could, if they wanted to. They want to know that there is a possibility to become that or to do that. And they also want to know if there are unknown paths. Can you give them something, show them something that they can learn or become or do that they hadn't even thought of? They're going to love that. And as a content creator, in this case, you can be really clear about the benefits of the content. You can tell them straight up what the benefits are if they're going to read this or view this video. Become a better content marketer. 3 tips to improve your football skills. 10 ways to be a better parent. But they also want to be challenged. And this is for me the thing I have to remind myself about every day, because it's so easy for a marketer or content creator or communicator to just try to give them the simple stuff, because we think that's what they want. They want cats, or they want fun stuff, or they want to laugh. But no, of course they do, but they also want to have content that are challenging the norms, the myths, and the opinions that they have. And this is not just about being provocative just to be provocative. They want you to actually make them think. And this will capture their attention, because if you're reading something, or if you're scrolling through your feed and you see something that challenges something that you thought you knew, you will stop. And it will also make them stay. So you need to find the norm you want to challenge. And this doesn't have to be like, we're going to change the world. It might, like in our case, be, no, you shouldn't create 1 or 2 videos a year. You should create 1 or 2 videos a day. That's a norm and a myth that we're trying to challenge. And when you do this, you need to dig deeper. You can't just like write something really superficial and think that that will do, because you will get the arguments back. You will get the questions back. Why? How come? How are we going to do that? Give us some data. If you have a contrarian view, you can just not splurt it out and think that they will just accept that. So you need to have meat on your legs, as we say in Sweden. And this is a really good time also to play the devil's advocate and be the friend of the audience. If you're talking about something, help the audience, the reader, to ask all the stupid questions along the way. You're going to be the one who paves the way to that. The second thing, and if the first one, focus on the reader, seemed quite basic, this will be even more basic, and I love it because it's so obvious. Do good stuff, not bad stuff. And now you're like, I'm going to turn this webinar off because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But the truth is, I have talked about this on stage and still had people ask me afterwards, but hey, Anna, clickbait, isn't that good? And I was like, do good stuff, not bad stuff. But we've all heard that this and this works. Yeah, but we can see in our data that the good stuff works. So what is good stuff? Well, proactive is much, much better than reactive. What does that mean? Well, you need to focus on content that shows that this is an organization with a voice of their own. And this is quite difficult, but it doesn't have to be expensive, and it doesn't really have to take much more time. It just takes a bit of thinking and strategic thinking. This is brand for real. What can you talk about that no one else can? I mean, if you do the stuff that everyone else does, you will just be one of many. But if you do something that no one else can, talk about stuff in a way that no one else can. You don't have to even have a unique story. You just have to tell the story in a unique way, have that unique view, and it will have a better effect. Because doing what everyone else does will not move the needle. If I Google like best practice content creation, I will get hundreds of articles with like 10 best ways to create good content, 12 best ways, 17 data points about blah, 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 blah. And I will never remember who said what, because they're all the same. This means that you dare to think before. Don't just go for what you know that your audience wants here and now. You have to think about, what will they need tomorrow? What can I tell them tomorrow that they weren't expecting? So be thought leading and set the agenda. Pick a side and run with it, because you will make a stand, and that's better than being reactive. And I'm not saying just to not like be totally a pain in the ass. Not every content piece has to be the huge, contrarian, proactive, unique thing, because no one can do that. You can also do stuff that are more high level, reactive things. That's also good. But when it comes to the end of the day, you need to have a stand, you need to have a proactive blood vein running through the content that you're making. So do something unique. And this is what I want to repeat time and time again. Rewrites don't work. Clickbait is not good. What everybody else is doing is not something you should focus on. And this is not me saying it, and it's not some Facebook thing saying it. It's our content data, 15,000 articles distributed on social channels. And these are the real data that shows what real people have been doing. And they don't like rewrites, and they don't like clickbaits, and they don't like the things that everyone else is doing. So it doesn't come as a surprise, but generic content won't build the relationships. And things that are unique to you is always the best. If you can always choose the unique. And as I said, it doesn't have to be every article, and it doesn't have to be every detail in a story. You can borrow so much. You can borrow the story, you can borrow images, you can borrow arguments, you can borrow so much. But the whole has to be unique to you, or the point of view. You can dare to be distinct, because people like that. Organizations that dare to take a stand will improve their relationship with the audience. Remember, they want to be challenged. And being crystal clear and having this and unique point of view is a good way to achieve this, to just challenge their views. But this is so important here. You need to be authentic. If you're going to be distinct and have a new point of view and challenge stuff, you need to be authentic. You can't just make things up, because no one will believe you. And here is a great example of this contrarian view. This is Salesforce, the end of software. And they are still the best at doing this. They're doing it together with Slack now. And saying that we are ending the software is such an obvious example of daring to take a stand, doing something unique, and taking this contrarian view. And they succeeded. And then a couple of years ago, another company came along and just stole that idea. So they said end of forms, and that was Drift, a chatbot. And there were loads of chatbots out there, but they said, we don't need forms anymore. We need to communicate. And they won. They're huge now. So this is a good way. And this is what Tanith and the Times and the Sunday Times also realized, that overwhelmingly, things that we produce that no one else could do in the same way helped us acquire new readers and led to high engagement with our current subscribers. So it works. Here's another case that I really like. I'm so fangirling Gong right now. So, and I'm not even the target group, because I'm not a salesperson. So they have a tool that records sales calls. And instead of needing to listen back to those sales calls to learn something, they have an AI that does that for you. So you can learn from sales leaders in your company really, really fast and efficient. And what they have is a lot of unique data, because they have all these data points. So they have created a content strategy that is based on their unique data. So they have analysts that dig up something, and they create kits like this, the objection handling masterclass. It might be a video, it might be a white paper, it might be something else, but they gather it in something, and then they go to LinkedIn and they use that contrarian view all the time. Ban this tip from your sales book. What closers do differently. And they always challenge you. And I'm so amazed that they can always do it in a nice and happy voice. So if you need a good example, check out Gong on LinkedIn. We're getting closer to the end, and I have 17 questions that you should ask yourselves to be guided to better stories. And these 17 questions aren't something that I have come up with or something that we've just put together for fun. They are based on these data points. And answering yes here to a question is a good thing. You will never get 17 yeses in one article, but it's really good to always come back to these questions because they will guide you to better content. So first of all, does this article describe a lifestyle choice that is relevant to our readers? And this could be anything. I mean, do they play tennis, as I said, or do they want to become better parents? Find those lifestyle choices that might even have that big a connection to your organization or your product, and just try to dig into that. Does it describe a relevant person? Really important. What influencers do your audience listen to? Does the article describe relevant information from an area that we cover? This might sound really journalisty, and it probably is, but it still aligns with what we do. Because, okay, we've been in a pandemic, we don't do things geographically, but we're going back to a reality where events will happen. And then we can do the geographic covering again. Does it describe a new phenomenon or a pattern in our society that we have seen? For us, this is the wave of video, the silent video, that 90% of everyone who watches video on social does it without turning on the sound. That's a new phenomenon and a new pattern that we have seen and that we talk a lot about, that your video has to be text driven right now. Or does the article describe an everyday situation that is relevant for our audience? For us, this could be, so do you struggle with the video creation every day? A lot of marketers do. Or an ongoing debate. I often join in the debate, is video better than text posts on Facebook? Because are we telling this story because we have exclusive and relevant information? This webinar is an example of this for me. Are we offering a unique perspective? We really try to offer a unique perspective all the time, that video should be easy, but also brand safe, but also, and so forth. Will the content be useful for the reader? And this is not every article, but if it is, it's really good. Or can the readers identify themselves in it? Because if you wouldn't read something that you feel, oh, this isn't for me. Or do you offer them some kind of escapism? Can they, can they be, what dreams can you make them have? Are we telling this story because it's resisting someone's opinions? We've been talking a lot about that. Take the contrarian view. And will the article be published because it highlights new questions in a known issue? This is a really good way to just hang on to an issue that people are talking about and give your point of view. I don't agree. That will grab the attention. Will it provoke a reaction? That's misspelled. Will it provoke a reaction with the reader by questioning their point of view? Or does it take a stand in an ongoing debate? Or finally, does it address or bust a myth? All of these are good things that will make your content creation much, much better. And what I don't want you to feel right now is like, oh, so I need to find this unique point of view. I have to go out there and struggle and debate. That is not it. This is pretty much more about birthing or sparking creativity, and to allow yourself to think, I don't need to do those things that everyone else is doing. I shouldn't do what everyone else is doing. I should find my own way because it will always work better. And there are two things you need to take with you. And it's focus on the person and do good stuff, not bad stuff. And that's it for me.